Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a truly fascinating piece of source material. We're looking at how a widely loved children's cartoon, Sheriff Labrador, actually uses a high-energy, action-packed martial arts training montage to teach something surprisingly profound: the psychological benefits of perseverance. Now, on the surface, sure, it's just a really fun story about some characters learning kung fu. But when we actually take a step back and look at the structure of the training, wow, it's an absolute masterclass in breaking down really complex life skills, things like grit, adaptation, and habit building, into super clear, actionable lessons. I am so excited to walk you through this today.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our schedule for today's explainer. First, welcome to Water City. Then, Step 1, endurance training, followed by Step 2, speed and agility. After that, Step 3, full body reaction, and finally, Dodo's growing up diary. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, welcome to Water City. So picture this. Dodo arrives in Water City alongside Sheriff Labrador, and he immediately crosses paths with this amazing duo. We've got a character named Coco and her grandfather, Sheriff Concorso. Now, upon witnessing Coco pull off some absolutely incredible martial arts moves, what do you think his immediate reaction is? He literally exclaims, "I want to learn too." And this is a massively crucial starting point for any learning journey. It highlights Dodo's immediate enthusiasm and his intrinsic motivation. Nobody is dragging him to a class against his will. He is genuinely, thoroughly inspired by seeing someone else's mastery in action. He sees that skill on full display and instantly wants it for himself, which just perfectly sets the stage for his zero-to-hero journey.
Moving right along to Section 2, Step 1, endurance training.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast between a beginner's initial confidence and the master's immediate escalation of the difficulty. Because let's face it, the foundation of any new skill, whether it's a very physical martial art like kung fu or a total mental challenge like learning to write code, begins with endurance. Initially, Dodo is tasked with a basic horse stance. His reaction? He says, "Hey, that's easy." But the master, he doesn't let him stay comfortable for a second. He instantly cranks it up a notch. It is not just a basic stance anymore. Dodo is suddenly handed a ball and told he has to hold his stance without dropping it. This brilliantly illustrates how that initial sort of overconfident phase of learning something new is almost always quickly met with the realization that real mastery, it requires intense, layered focus.
And here is the true test of that endurance, literally represented by the number 3. The master imposes a grueling constraint. Dodo has to hold this incredibly demanding stance, perfectly balancing the ball, for exactly 3 minutes. In the context of our story, 3 minutes dramatizes the huge physical and mental hurdle Dodo has to overcome. It represents that notoriously difficult phase in any learning process, where the initial novelty wears completely off, your muscles start to ache, and the real hard work actually begins.
But wait, there is a very strategic light at the end of the tunnel here. The master points out that pushing through that tough time limit yields a tangible, highly satisfying reward. In this case, goody cookies. He uses this sweet treat to motivate Dodo when the going really gets tough. It is a classic, highly effective way to reinforce positive behavior. You basically associate the grueling, sweaty hard work with a sweet, immediate payoff. And honestly, it works beautifully. Dodo holds on, the time is up, and he successfully passes the test.
Which brings us to Section 3, Step 2, speed and agility.
So, with the solid foundation of endurance now firmly established, notice the deliberate shift in the curriculum, removing totally away from static endurance, just holding still and enduring the muscle burn, to dynamic, explosive movement. Let's walk through the specific, layered constraints of this agility challenge together. First, Dodo has to follow the master's specific moves, like the tiger strike and crane wings. Second, he has to jump fast like a bunny. And third, he has to navigate an entire obstacle course without stepping on any of the hoops. This requires incredible coordination. It's not just about physical speed. It requires intense cognitive rule following in real time. Dodo basically has to process multiple complex instructions while his body is in rapid motion. The ultimate goal of Step 2 is loud and clear: be faster than the master. In order to actually complete the specific training, Dodo literally has to outpace his own teacher. And this is such a fantastic motivational tool within the source material. By challenging the student to surpass the mentor in this highly focused exercise, the master simultaneously pushes Dodo's physical agility to the absolute limit, while drastically skyrocketing his confidence when he finally succeeds.
Next up, Section 4,
Step 3, full body reaction. All right, this brings us to the final, definitely the most complex phase of the physical training curriculum. Endurance and speed are now being completely mashed up with chaotic unpredictability. The constraint for this final test is represented by the number 1. Dodo has to keep multiple balloons up in the air for 1 full minute to pass. Again, a minute might sound super short in everyday life, but when you're frantically trying to keep a bunch of floaty, totally unpredictable balloons from touching the ground, it is an intense, incredibly fast-paced constraint that tests absolutely every single reflex you possess. And this brilliantly illustrates the core concept of adaptation in learning. When the master levels up the challenge by tossing in even more balloons, Dodo is basically told he can't just rely on his standard techniques anymore. He has to use his feet, his head, his hands, literally his whole body. He must adapt on the fly and utilize every single resource available to him to succeed. It's the ultimate synthesis of literally everything he has learned so far.
Finally, Section 5, Dodo's Growing Up Diary.
Having successfully navigated all 3 of those grueling physical steps, we finally reach the narrative payoff. This is where we see the physical training translate directly into real-world application and real emotional intelligence. So the crucial takeaway here is that this training had 2 distinct, highly positive outcomes. First, there's the big personal achievement. Dodo and Coco earned their beginner kung fu badges directly from the master. But even more importantly than that, there is an immediate social benefit. They took those brand new moves out into Water City and used them to actually help the little swans. The training wasn't just about showing off how cool they are, it was a practical toolkit they used to positively impact their own community.
Let's move to and see how this all builds towards the core message of our explainer. We just witnessed 3 totally distinct steps: endurance via the 3-minute horse stance, speed via the complex bunny jumps, and reaction via the 1-minute balloon test. By looking at them all together, we can clearly see how these physical challenges laid the essential groundwork for a much larger, overarching life lesson about exactly how we approach adversity. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful quote straight out of Dodo's diary. When you learn something new, it's okay if it seems hard at first. Don't give up. Keep practicing and you'll get better and better. Guys, this is the core thesis of the entire source material. It is such a profound reminder about resilience. The Kung Fu, that was just the vehicle. The real lesson they're teaching here is that initial difficulty is completely normal, and consistent, enduring practice is the only true path to mastery. So I want to end our explainer today by turning the spotlight over to you with a direct question. What new, difficult skill will you practice today? Whether you're learning a complex new software program, finally picking up that musical instrument, or tackling a really tricky project at work, I strongly encourage you to apply Dodo's lesson of perseverance to your own life. Remember the training we talked about? Endure those difficult moments, stay agile, adapt your reactions, and most importantly, never give up. Keep practicing and you will get better. Thank you so much for exploring this topic with me today, and I really hope you leave feeling inspired to tackle your next big challenge head on.